I want to share something fascinating today. Something that cuts straight through the surface of everyday greetings and slips into the deeper layers of psychology and human attraction. A lot of guys out there believe they can instantly tell when a woman hasn't been close to someone in a while, but reality doesn't play out in such obvious signals. Real life is subtle, and attraction rarely puts up neon signs. The clues aren't about the loud gestures or big dramatic actions. They live in those smaller, softer details most people ignore. And when you learn to notice them, a whole hidden world starts opening up right in front of your eyes. Think about it. Every single day, we're greeted by dozens of hellos. At school, at work, on the street, at coffee shops, on public transport, even in those quick little exchanges that last barely a few seconds. To most people, a hello is just a hello, a routine phrase thrown out without thought. But psychology shows us that greetings are rarely neutral. They're little performance acts, moments where someone's emotional state slips through, even when they're trying to hide it. And when someone hasn't felt that warmth of closeness in a while, the way they greet you can become almost like a pressure valve, sometimes controlled, sometimes leaking, sometimes overcompensating. That's why the simple way a woman says hello can actually tell you far more than most guys ever notice. It isn't about spying on her or treating her like a puzzle to be solved. It's about slowing down enough to read the rhythm beneath her words, the little mismatches between tone and setting, the way her body and timing carry messages. Her conscious mind might not even realize she's broadcasting. It's not trickery. It's simply paying attention. And when you do, you'll notice things that most people walk right past. Let's take the first type of signal. Imagine a woman who doesn't actually say hello at all, but instead launches into a little story the second she sees you. She skips the traditional hi and goes straight into something like, "You won't believe what just happened at the store," or, "Guess what I just overheard in line?" To most people, that just sounds like casual chatter, like she's eager to share. But there's more happening underneath. A direct hello can feel loaded, especially if she's been starved of intimacy and suddenly feels a spark of attraction. That single syllable carries weight, so instead of landing on it directly, she sidesteps into storytelling. It's a psychological way of smoothing the intensity, easing into connection without revealing just how much the moment matters to her. The story itself isn't the real point. It could be about anything. The story is the bridge, the safe way across the emotional river. Now picture her in different places. She might do it while passing you at school, skipping hello with a sudden burst of narrative. She might do it in the office hallway, diving into a mini anecdote instead of just saying hi. She might do it while queuing in a noisy cafe in London or in a small diner in the Midwest where the room is otherwise calm. Different countries, different situations, but the impulse is the same. She's protecting herself while still reaching out. Another common sign is the strangely formal hello. Instead of something warm and relaxed like a "Hey, how's it going?" she goes with, "How are you?" said with clear diction, steady eye contact, and composed posture. Maybe even a slight pause before you respond. On the surface, it looks like politeness. She's just being proper, right? But psychologists often see this type of greeting as quiet armor. It's not coldness. It's a way of containing emotion. When someone hasn't expressed desire for a long time, there's a vulnerability that comes with it. Amplified courtesy becomes the shield. It's not that she's naturally stiff or formal. It's that the greeting is doing double duty, acting both as connection and protection. Picture it in real life. You're walking into class in Sydney and she greets you a little too properly, asking about your day with the polish of someone reading a script. Or you bump into her in Toronto and she asks about your weekend with a perfectly polite tone. No casual slang. No teasing humor, just measured words. The surface says politeness, but the tone says, "I need to keep myself together." And once you notice it, you'll realize it's not just manners, it's containment. Then there's the accidental touch that appears right on cue. It might be a quick brush of her fingers across your sleeve as she says hello, or her shoulder grazing yours as she steps past, or even a light playful nudge paired with a smile. These touches look harmless, easy to dismiss as random. But in psychology, micro-touches are often tiny releases of tension. They're like steam venting from a closed system. Greetings provide the perfect socially acceptable window for these touches. They can be explained away as nothing, but they still carry meaning. And the real signal isn't how big the touch is, but when it happens. If it lands exactly with the hello, it's less likely to be chance and more likely to be a discreet test of spark. You'll see it everywhere once you look. On a crowded platform in London, she brushes your arm exactly as she says hi. At a coffee shop in Dublin, she taps your sleeve while greeting you with a grin. At a college football tailgate, she bumps into you lightly the moment she acknowledges you. To anyone else, it looks accidental. To someone tuned into the rhythm, it's a tiny but deliberate step closer. Another clue shows up when her energy doesn't match the room. Imagine walking into a calm, quiet cafe. Everyone's sipping coffee, reading papers, working on laptops. You walk up to her table, and she greets you with the energy of a Friday night bar. Her smile is huge. Her hands animate in the air. Her voice is a notch louder than the space calls for. It looks like she's just in a great mood, but often this kind of mismatch is compensation. After time without intimacy, the nervous system sometimes overshoots, dialing up brightness to cover the underlying nerves. It's not about overwhelming you. It's about balancing her own inner state. She's not consciously deciding to act extra cheerful. It's her way of managing the spark she feels. Psychologists describe this as an external counterbalance. The nervous system feels tense on the inside, so the outside projects exaggerated confidence. You'll notice it when her hello feels like a mini celebration in a room that isn't celebrating. That's the mismatch, and that mismatch is often the message. Sometimes, instead of stories, formality, touches, or bursts of energy, you'll notice a stream of filler questions that don't really need answers. She greets you with, "Did you find parking okay?" Or, "Was the traffic bad?" Or, "Is it chilly out?" None of these questions are deeply important. She's not investigating. What she's doing is padding the moment, stretching out the greeting. That one word I can feel too short, too intense, so she buys herself time with little questions. These are placeholders, psychological bubble wrap. They keep the energy moving, protect against awkward silence, and give her space to breathe. Think of her standing outside a bookstore in Vancouver. Instead of a quick hello, she asks if you found the place easily. Or at a farmer's market in Auckland, she asks about the weather as soon as you arrive. Or in a quiet meeting room right after you enter, she starts with, "Traffic bad?" Before easing into real conversation. The questions aren't data collection, they're rhythm regulation. Another subtle but powerful sign is the pause before words. Sometimes she greets you not with an instant hello, but with a moment of silence first. Her eyes find yours. She holds the gaze just a fraction too long, and then the hello comes out. That pause isn't indifference. It's often anticipation. Psychologists see it as a freeze before action. A moment where attraction spikes so strongly it temporarily halts speech. And when someone hasn't felt that closeness in a while, that pause can carry even more meaning. Picture it across a picnic table, where she meets your eyes and holds them before finally saying hi. Picture it in a school hallway, where the beat of silence stretches just a second longer than expected. Picture it across a bar counter in Manchester, where her look lingers before the greeting arrives. The hello itself may be plain, but the silence before it says more than the word ever could. And then there's the tiny favor slipped right into the greeting. Instead of a plain, "Hey," she greets you with, "Hey, can you hold this for a sec?" Or, "Mind the door?" Or, "Can you take a quick picture?" These are micro favors. On the surface, they're nothing, just little practical asks. But in attraction psychology, favors like this act as low-risk bridges. They create excuses for closeness, eye contact, and a quick thank you that holds more warmth than the request itself. It's a way to engineer connection without saying outright, "I want to connect." You'll see this when she balances a coffee tray and asks you to steady it while saying hello, or when she slips into a line and asks you to hold her spot, or when she hands you a scarf with a playful smile. If the favor lands exactly with the greeting and she lingers a beat after thanking you, the moment carries more weight than the surface would suggest. The favor isn't the point. The moment is. Now here's the thing. It's important to ground all of this in reality. These aren't magic tricks or foolproof formulas. A single sign on its own isn't proof of attraction. People have quirks, moods, habits, and cultural patterns. Context always matters. A big smile at a surprise party doesn't signal compensation. It signals the party. A formal tone at work might have nothing to do with intimacy and everything to do with office culture. A touch could be real clumsiness, not attraction. That's why the key is to watch for patterns, not isolated beats. It's about reading the overall vibe rather than seizing on one sign and deciding you've cracked the code. Psychologists constantly emphasize that human behavior is layered. It's influenced by personal history, social norms, emotional state, and even environment. Attraction signs live inside that complexity. So the skill isn't about being a mind reader. It's about noticing without assuming, staying curious without jumping to conclusions. Respecting boundaries is part of it too. The fact that you notice a signal doesn't mean you're entitled to respond however you want. The respectful move is to stay calm, kind, and confident, and let connection grow naturally instead of forcing meaning onto every move. But here's why this matters. Most guys move through greetings without a second thought. They hear the words but miss the music. They focus on the literal content and ignore the rhythm, tone, timing, and context. And that's where real understanding is hiding. When you learn to slow down and notice the micro patterns, you step into a level of confidence most people never reach. You don't become manipulative. You don't become pushy. You simply become more aware, more attuned, more grounded. That kind of awareness changes how you carry yourself in every interaction. So think about it. A story instead of a hello, a too formal politeness, an accidental touch right on time, a greeting that's brighter than the room, a string of filler questions, a pause before words, a micro favor slipped into the moment. Each one on its own is small, but together they create a map of subtle signals. They're not proofs, they're possibilities. And when you learn to read them with curiosity, not assumption, you unlock a deeper understanding of attraction that most people walk right past. And if you've been listening to this and thinking, okay, but what happens when the signals go beyond hello? What happens when she's not just protecting herself or dipping a toe in, but actually ready to move closer, to show genuine desire? That's the next layer. Because greetings are just the doorway. What follows inside the room is a whole other conversation. If these insights clicked for you, take a second to hit like. It helps this community grow. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more psychology-backed cues about attraction, connection, and those tiny details most people miss, subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive.